Well, thank you for coming to Deaconage, beautiful Federation Square, for this evening's Melbourne Conversations, recreating communities, Amsterdam, Tel Aviv, San Francisco and Melbourne. I'm caruana-McManus. I'm the founder of Facebook.com, Smart Cities IoT, and Meshed, an Internet of Things integrator, and recently, apparently, an Australian leader for the Knowledge Nation. A special welcome also to our distinguished panel, Hilla Oren. Welcome, Hilla. Frans-Anton Vermust, Michelle Fitzgerald, and our rapporteur, Michael Dixon from IBM, who will also be making some closing remarks at the end of the panel. But to get us underway, please make welcome the CEO of the City of Melbourne, Ben Rimmer. Come on, Ben.
Well, thank you for that welcome, and it's fantastic to see such a large crowd here at Deaconage for this event. I apologise for those of you who are expecting to see the Lord Mayor right now. He had a family difficulty that meant that he couldn't be here at short notice. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians and elders on whose country we're meeting today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. And in particular, when I do that, I'd like to acknowledge the elders of the past whose unseen hands guide the actions and decisions of today, those of the present working for their communities and setting an example for the next generation, and particularly important in this context where we're talking about technology and the future and things that are happening, the elders of the future who will inherit the legacy of all of our efforts. Can I join Catherine in my welcome to the panellists and to all of you for coming to this fantastic Melbourne Conversations event tonight. 10 years ago, Facebook was a small website run by a couple of college geeks from Harvard. Twitter barely existed, I think, depending on the date we are in 2016. Airbnb and Uber were not even figments of people's imagination. And in 10 years' time, it's our belief at the City of Melbourne that we'll have the same sense of awe and respect that we do today about the impact of social media, about the topic of tonight's discussion, the impact of innovations and technology in city management, infrastructure, open data, and the like. Melbourne is a hive of smart city activity right now. Dozens of leaders in digital innovation are here, reimagining how cities work and what cities are capable of. Tonight's panel members are in Melbourne for the Smart Cities Summit in 2 days as part of the Connect Expo. And I would like to extend a particularly warm welcome to those who've joined us from overseas. I'd like to also pay particular thanks to John Potsoglu, who was one of the organisers of the Smart City Australia Summit, who enabled us to have this discussion with such distinguished panellists tonight. We have the technology and appetite to make our cities smart, but we must ensure that every advance starts from the same thing as every other decision in city management, which is looking for things from the human scale and from the perspective of individuals. Imagine this: if you suffer a heart attack, a drone could deliver a defibrillator before emergency services arrive. Or, and this one's a particular favourite of mine, an autonomous vehicle that takes your children, your small children, to have a day with granddad without any adult in the car. Only this morning we welcomed 6 tech experts from IBM as part of the Smarter Cities Challenge. Melbourne's one of 16 cities around the world taking part, and over 3 weeks these digital leaders will get access to the systems and to the experts that make Melbourne tick. Their challenge, a challenge that we're going to need lots of over the next 5 to 10 years, is to work out how Melbourne can cope better with large-scale disruptive events, events such as Melbourne Metro, or for that matter, shorter scale problems and challenges that flow from fantastic events like White Night. Importantly, the IBM team will suggest how we can harness the power and support of communities during those times of disruption and extreme events. We need to get better information from the community and feed better information back to the community. And all of the tech aspects of this evolution, Internet of Things, big data, the sharing economy, must ultimately help the community become resilient and protect livability. There's fierce global competition for the title of Smart City and debate over even what it means, and a lot of people, I have to tell you, are already over it as language. But in Melbourne, of course, we see an incredibly important opportunity in all of this. Put simply, we think that Melbourne is the best placed city in the world to deal with some of these challenges over the next 20 years. We have the livability, we have the system of education and training, we have room for growth around our CBD, around our inner suburbs. We have an incredible innovative capability within the community, and above all, and quite distinctively, we have a very strong sense of partnership. Tonight you'll learn what innovations in the Smart Cities agenda mean for living, visiting, studying in and doing business in smart cities from a number of different perspectives around the world. And this is what Melbourne Conversations is great at, teasing out the social and the community impact of change. We certainly hope from the City of Melbourne that you're inspired by the opportunities that our city is pursuing via smarter use of technology, that you learn from what others are doing, and that you keep the pressure on governments of all persuasions to manage these changes well. We appreciate your attendance this evening, and a bit later on there'll be a Q&A session. I would encourage you to ask many and difficult questions. A reminder, in 2 weeks' time, Melbourne Knowledge Week begins, another chance to connect with the talent and innovation shaping our future. There's a fantastic program that's put together. It even comes with a little bit of augmented reality on the front cover, and I would encourage all of you to join in and participate. I hope you enjoyed tonight's conversation and that you enjoy being part of this ongoing conversation in Melbourne. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ben. So now what I would love to do is I would like to set the scene. Australia's population is estimated to reach 62 million people by 2100, with Melbourne's population expected to exceed 8 million by 2050. What would an Australian smart city look like? And what are the next steps needed to push us in the same direction as other leading global smart cities? Well, to answer some of these questions, I would now like to hand over to our esteemed panel members, who will share with you what is unique about their city and the ways in which they are using information technology, smart systems and new business models to shape their city from the here and now and into the future. So firstly, I'd like to introduce you to Hila Oren. Come on up, Hila. Hila is the CEO of the Tel Aviv Foundation, until quite recently was the CEO and founder of Tel Aviv Global. The Tel Aviv Foundation partners with donors from around the world to meet the evolving needs of the city of Tel Aviv, and proudly serves as a beacon of progress, elevating the city's quality of life through education, the arts, sports, social sciences and the environment. Responsive and purposeful, the Foundation provides for the needy and creates opportunities for a better future for all the residents of Tel Aviv. Please welcome Frans-Anton Vermast. Frans-Anton is an expert in open access communication infrastructure and smart cities, and has been the Senior Strategic Advisor for Low Carbon and Connected Urban Planning at Amsterdam Smart City since 2008. He is an expert in searching for the opportunities of novel appliances and services that make cities a more habitable place for its citizens, where it is pleasant to live, work and play. As founder of the cityprotocol.org, Frans-Anton specialises in developing smart cities as open and user-centric platforms, and his objective for working in projects like smart work, smart grids, smart living, smart city and smart mobility is to create a more sustainable and livable environment and boost social and economic benefits that will result in more happy citizens. And representing the City of Melbourne is Michelle Fitzgerald. In November 2015, Michelle joined the City of Melbourne as the Chief Digital Officer, the first position of its kind for Victorian local government, managing the newly formed Smart City Office. In this position, she will assist the City of Melbourne to attract startup investment, drive the take-up of digital, agile development and open data across customer services, lead the shift in infrastructure management towards smart city modelling, and collaborate with Melbourne's research and higher education sectors to build the city's education capabilities and reputation as a knowledge hub. Michelle was previously a customer and digital partner with PricewaterhouseCoopers Consulting Australia. She is also a current non-executive director for Standards Australia and was recently awarded as one of the Knowledge Nation 100 leaders in Australia. Welcome, panel members. So, another round of applause, why not? So now what we're going to do is each of the speakers is going to show a short presentation and then we'll go into the panel. So I'd firstly like to ask Hila to come up and show us what's happening in Tel Aviv, Hila.
Go.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for having me, but before we start, I'd like you to take you with me on a little journey in Tel Aviv. Can we put the video on, please?
When I look in the mirror, boy, I'm loving what I see. If I could choose anyone in the world, I would choose me. Every color that I have is fashion in your face. I would never wanna be like anybody else. I am who I am, and who I am is modified. Normalcy is boring to me, let's get out of line. When everybody's wearing gray, I'd be wearing red. Honey, I'm alive as long as I am playing dead. Turn the music up, 'cause we coming. Every color of the rainbow we loving. It don't matter how we step in the party. Every color of the rainbow we marching. Go left, go left, go right, go right, go left, go left, go right, go right, go left, go left, go right, go right, go left, go left, go right, go right. Turn the music up, 'cause we coming. Every color of the rainbow we loving. It don't matter how we step in the party. Every color of the rainbow we marching. Go left, go left, go right, go right, go left, go left, go right, go right, go left, go left, go right, go right, go left, go left, go right, go right.
Thank you. Thank you for being patient and looking at Tel Aviv through a different way. And when you're asking yourself, how are we connecting this to smart city? What is it to do with this innovative entrepreneur subject? At the end of the day, I think we're all talking about connecting to our citizens. How are we connecting to our citizens? First of all these people over there, almost, even if they were half naked, they had a telephone in their pocket. And when the CEO of the town referred how 10 years ago we didn't believe what we would do with a telephone or an iPhone or whatever, now this is a smart way to connect between us, to understand what these people need. And when I say these people, it's our citizens. This is one community. This community, by the way, this film was taken last year. 10 years ago, the community was different, so the event was in a different place. If we want to understand how this community wants to take the event to the sea, because now they have kids and they want their kids to come with them, again, we have to talk to them, we have to connect to them, we have to understand what their needs, what their desires, how we can improve their lives, and this is just one small community. So what I want to open this discussion or open this evening about smart cities is to understand that a smart city is not only about infrastructure. It's not only upon lights and sustainable and roads and things like that, First of all, it's about residents. And it's about us, the city people, I would say, or the city officials that have to take barriers off. Because bureaucracy is heavy. And if we want to take red tape off, we have to listen to our residents. How are we doing this? How are we listening to different communities? One is gay, one is elderly, one is just born, one is a student. They all have different needs. They all want their quality of life to be better, but in a different way. So in Tel Aviv, we invented a new digital card. We'll talk about that later. I just want to wrap up all that under one, I would say, new profession that we all have as city makers. I call myself now a city maker. You know, we have these makers. We have the filmmaker, we have shoemakers, but now we have city makers. It's us that take barriers off and make the city something different. I just had a great tour in the last 3 hours, and they took me through this place of where the MIT university really has a playground for kids. I asked myself, for the students, for the basketball, and I asked myself, and it's just a temporary place, is a smart city, and this is for you, CEO of the town, is that place going to still be a playground, a public place, or is it going to be built in a new house there? And how are we going to ask and know exactly what the citizens need? What do the students need? So I'm going to leave all these questions open and going to bring it back to you. Thank you for this opening.
Thank you, Hila. I think I want to go to Tel Aviv. Absolutely, but look at the colour, it's fantastic. Now, unfortunately, one of our panel speakers, Krista Kanalakis, I think forgot about the international dateline. The Deputy Innovation Officer for Mayor's Office for the City and County of San Francisco unfortunately has been delayed with her travels. But we would love to show you the video from San Francisco. So let's show that so we don't miss out on San Fran.
San Francisco is the innovation capital of the world, but it's also the capital of this, and this, and this, and this. It'd be awesome if we used technology to fix some of the problems that San Franciscans see every single day. Let's give it a shot.
San Francisco is 7 miles by 7 miles, and that's adorable. But I don't want to walk 7 miles just to get home each night. How come it's so hard to find a cab in this city?
What about a visual display installed in every single bus stop across San Francisco that shows you real-time data of every cab, every train, every bus, every boat that's available to you right now so you can get that ride?
This doesn't happen often, but when it does, I want a place where I can report it instantly. Can I get a little help?
We're actually building a Twitter-enabled crime reporting tool so you can tweet at SFPD to get an immediate response.
Yeah, I'm checking my email from a laundromat. So how does the city still not have public Wi-Fi?
What we'd love to do is convert old phone booths into Wi-Fi hotspots.
¿Y qué vamos a hacer con los hipsters? Ellos piensan que no hay nadie mejor que ellos solo porque comen comida rara y escuchan música que nadie conoce, pero no es así.
I don't think there's anything we can do about that.
$85 for parking tickets?
Parking in San Francisco is not easy. You should be able to use a mobile app to pay for parking, and then you should get a text message when you're running out of time. You just go back into the app and buy more time. Easy stuff.
Where do you live again?
Sunset.
Excellent. Frans-Anton, would you like to come and share with us what's happening in Amsterdam?
Can we first start off with a video, please?
I is for individual. And Amsterdam represents the collective. Together, all these I's make up the city, where they also support and promote it.
This is ours, how can we act upon it?
Why buy if you can borrow for free?
Amsterdam is key for our success and we're proud to be a part of it.
65 developers and designers are working on smart solutions for the city, for the arena. They've got 48 hours.
In this project we use the Smart Citizen Kit, which is an open source, low-cost sensor kit.
Okay, thank you. Basically, we were able to do this and become the Innovation Capital of Europe for the year 2016-2018 by a true bottom-up approach, by citizens' engagement. And in addition to what Hila was mentioning on residents, we also focus on all the people that visit Amsterdam, both for leisure and for business. The way we do it is basically through smart growth, smart startups, and the focus lays on the livability, or more popular, like the hipster, referring to the hipster in the previous movie, about the happiness of the people. And basically this is possible only when you have the imperatives, which are open data, open source, and an open platform. And we truly believe in this not triple P, but quadruple P, public-private people partnership. Because in the end, if the people, if your citizens don't take it, then you will have a problem later on as a project will fail. So a few people ask me then, how are you going to measure this happiness, or how are you going to how can you measure that the people are satisfied, yes or no? We call that city council elections. Because if you treat them like clients, and if you don't perform well, they won't renew the contract every 4 years with you. So that's in a brief overview of the global village in the world.
Thank you. Michelle, let's have a look at what's happening in the city of Melbourne.
And it's great to be in Melbourne,
it's
talking
awesome.
about Melbourne as
And
a
I love
smart
this
city
place.
with so many Melburnians. I thought what might be appropriate would be to share another video, not just because we've just seen 3 of them, but we actually conducted an event in Acme, just around the corner here in Fed Square, about a month ago, and we had 100 Melburnians come together to help us think through what might Melbourne look like as a digital city in 2030. We had people from all walks of life. We had men and women. We had a broad range of ages. We had corporates, with students, with everyday Melburnians. So let's have a look at the video and see what some Melburnians are saying they see as our future.
Welcome everybody to the Future Melbourne Digital City Hack.
The City of Melbourne is leading an engagement process called Future Melbourne 2026.
It's really amazing to see a city really take its future in its hands.
All the outputs we'll be producing over the next day or so will feed into our Future Melbourne 2026 strategy.
What we're trying to do is answer this question: how do we ensure the future of Melbourne as a digital city is sustainable and prosperous?
The Melbourne we've envisaged is one which is socially inclusive, connected, prosperous, sustainable. A city where the world wants to visit, live, work and play.
My Melbourne is an AI-enabled personal solution unique to Melbourne. It learns about you, knows you, and gives you recommendations you can trust, just like a friend would.
We want things which are wearables in terms of glasses. We want things on bus shelters, which are all
augmented reality platforms, which we can then use to access this information in terms of maps, events, communities, and other spaces.
The smart transport system, using AI, sensors, and crowdsourced data to advise you of your perfect route across all transport types.
We are designing a system that takes cars out of the equation in the future city.
You walk down to the nearest pod station and the system matches you up with everyone who's traveling in the same direction as you.
We are Melburnians. We don't want to live in a concrete jungle. Our solutions marry the digital and the natural.
We want to develop emotional relationship with the tree so people start to value and care for the trees and each other so we can create a green Melbourne.
We need smart food. It's a new initiative to ensure our food systems are sustainable and prosperous.
Meet Stacey. She's a young professional worker. During the day, she can walk around and she can make electricity just by walking on the floor. We want to gamify this whole thing.
The time has come for us to leverage digital technology to create a more responsive government and a more engaged people. Let's reimagine digital democracy by bringing it into the most important public space in our lives, our local cafe.
We love Melbourne because it is a vibrant city full of events, rich cultures, ethnicities from all ages. We want to extend Melbourne vibrancy to everyone.
Well done, Melbourne. So we kicked off that event sharing a context very similar to what Catherine outlined before, and it's the context that my team thinks about every day in the City of Melbourne. As we look out to the future, we are expecting the population of Greater Melbourne to double to around 8 million people by about 2050. It's expected to be bigger than Sydney by about 2053. Global temperatures might rise by 2 to 4 degrees over that period of time, and right at this point in time we are facing an avalanche of technologies coming down the pipeline. Driverless electric share cars, internables, wearables, Internet of Things, sensors, artificial intelligence-based analytics, etc., etc. So the question we think about every single day actually isn't about all those technologies, that kind of comes last. Where we start with is Melbourne is all about people, and it's all about people coming to our places within the city. So how do we use technology as an enabler to continue to improve Melbourne's livability, sustainability and prosperity? And how we measure our outcomes is basic things like, what do we need to do to reduce congestion? What do we need to do to reduce pollution? How can we continue to improve safety for people who want to come into the city any time of day or night, any day of the week? What can we do to promote connectivity between different groups of people? How can we increase convenience and the ability for people to navigate the city? So at the end of the day, it's about really simple, practical things. But bearing in mind that thinking about the DNA of our city, Melbourne's a beautiful city. It's hidden, it's connected, it's got a strong sense of community. We're a foodie city, we're a hipster city in parts. But it is all about thinking about what do we need to do to make lives better for everyday Melburnians. So we're delighted to have set up the Smart City office. We're 5 months old, as I said. I am a Melburnian, born and bred, and I'm very proud to be part of this role. I'm really excited about this event. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you, Catherine.
My pleasure, Michelle. Thank you. Actually, Michelle, can you tell me about your trees? I just love that. Tell everybody about the trees.
Okay, who in the audience, I'm presuming we're all Melburnians, permanent or visitors, knows that all of our trees in the City of Melbourne have email addresses? Yeah, see, they already know it. Some awesome. Okay, some people don't. So this story to me speaks to what smart city means for Melbourne, what technology means for Melbourne as a city. So a few years ago, as we all know, we were facing a pretty tough situation around drought. Concurrently with that, we had a very practical need as a city to track and manage our trees as assets. They are a valued asset of the city, and we need to monitor and maintain those assets. So we tracked every single tree and we put them on a map, because that's a nice, easy way of managing our assets. And then someone had a great idea, which went something like, hey, we've got Melburnians on the street every single day of the week. Sure, we have council officers out there managing our trees and when there's a branch in a dangerous position, but maybe our citizens could be telling us this as well. So it's like a way of crowdsourcing asset maintenance of our trees. So we set up email addresses for our trees, And what happened on the back of that was a little bit unexpected. Not only did we get people writing in to say, hey, this branch is in a dangerous position, please send someone to cut it off, whatever. People started sending love letters to our trees. We had visitors from around the world who'd come to Melbourne saying, dear tree, thank you for your shade. We had homeless people writing emails saying, thank you for keeping me company and for keeping me protected. And that story to me really speaks to the human side of everything we need to do for our city. Yes, it's about the hard stuff with council. We deal with rates, roads and rubbish. But at the end of the day, it's about people, helping people connect with nature and creating beautiful experiences.
Absolutely fantastic. So talking about the heart of the city, Hila, I understand that your video was very, I think, evocative and really exciting. But you said that it was about one particular community. Tel Aviv and also Israel as general is also known as a smart nation. And here in Australia we have the initiative by our Prime Minister around the innovation boom, of which Michelle and I are quite involved with at the moment. So do you have some insights about your organisation's approach to delivering smart learning models, and share with us what you're doing also around science, technology, engineering and maths, which, you know, one thing we look at the actual technology, but we've got to have smart people involved in designing the right things for our people and our communities. Do you want to share a little bit with us?
Of course.
Yeah.
I think, first of all, the whole audience wants to refer to itself as a smart people, a smart person. We all have our knowledge and our, how would I say, our intuition about things. But when we want to approach solutions and approach challenges, and think about solutions, there's one thing I think we have to put over there all the time, and that is the failure issue. We have to take that barrier off. And this is something that Israelis, which is quite a small nation, it's only 8 million people, and in a way we're an island, like Australians are far away from the rest of the world. Israelis, in a way, neglected in some places. This is how we like to refer to ourselves, and we feel that we are with our back to the wall. So we have no other way but to find solutions for ourselves. And when you're there and you're telling your kids or your fellows or your friends or your partners, look, let's try and do this, maybe we'll fail. Like when I sent this video and Jeffrey told me, oh, it's a mistake, it's not the right one. But he really felt it's a failure. But it's not, even if it is not the right one. This is part of the thing. Although, you know, I was telling everybody it's the right thing. So a failure issue is something really important to refer to as to understanding that this is part of your learning, part of your startup, part of your entrepreneurship. I always refer to myself as a serial failure. If you'd hear my history, I failed almost anything I did. I mean, and I won't go through it now. But I do think, and it's not a joke, that you learn from each little failure you do. Now, we take ourselves very serious, we put challenges, we put measurements to what we do, etc., but this is part of entrepreneurship. This is part of what you have to do in order to look. But I want to refer to that also in the city, because this is like a wide umbrella of looking at things, but let's go into a city. When we approached our citizens, we understood that they really like their city. We all love Tel Aviv, but we don't like our municipality. Does that sound familiar some places? Yep. Okay? We love our cities. This is our place. This is our home. But we don't like the municipalities. Oh, this is the bureaucracy. This is the building where we don't get the right solutions, right? So we understood as the city people that we have to take care of that. So we initiated this new card called Digitel. It's a card that really helps us be in touch with our citizens. This is what Zohar, our chief knowledge officer, does in town. And this card really helps us in a way that the card is just a physical thing, but all your knowledge is on top of that. So I know if this guy lives in one resident and he needs his priorities and his needs and his desires are this and that, so I can push information to him on one thing, and then if this lady lives in a different community and needs different things and desires, and her street is just is going under construction, I can push different information. And after 2 years, we see that this smart approach, by the way, in the city we have the chief knowledge, which is not regular, and of course the chief technology, and they're working together, and they're both under the smart city organization. And this connection with the citizens of the city, and again, we're small, we're lucky, it's only 500,000, so we can approach things quicker and get solutions quicker. So we really feel in the last 2 years that the impact on the quality of life has really improved. Of course, we still have a long way to go, and once I'm inviting everyone to Tel Aviv, you can see there's still a lot to do, but these things of getting connected is, I think, one of the most important things for us.
That's absolutely fantastic, because Frans-Anton and I, prior to the panel, were talking about what's the motivation around why cities become disruptive and start to look at different ways. And we spoke about need, compelling events and crisis. Frans-Anton, you must be very proud for Amsterdam to win the award for the European Capital of Innovation. In the work that I'm doing, it's not surprising, because all roads seem to be leading to Amsterdam, particularly in the Internet of Things. Can you describe something about the culture of your city, around what is it about Amsterdam that is bringing this innovation to the fore? And you've certainly got some great insights about, for example, how your city is dealing with the Syrian crisis and how that's sort of creating some great opportunities for your city.
Yeah, we truly believe that the citizens can be just part of the solution, and getting them engaged in a very early stage will help to not only to get to a quicker solution, but also the acceptance of the solution. And as Catherine was mentioning, the Syrian refugees problem we are having now in Europe, basically what we did is inviting 10 startups within the city hall, gave them the problem that we're dealing with a lot of refugees, and let these entrepreneurs, these startup companies, come up with a solution. Instead of that, the city government is telling, oh, we're going to deal it this way, or we're going to deal it in another way. And another, I think, unique solution that is found now is that the refugees are actually being invited into community halls with the help of the interpreter. They get a list of homes that are available, mostly social housing, but still, and they are able to find their own home. And they know the consequence that if they don't find a suitable place by the end of the day, they will go back to the refugee camp. And that's, I think, is one of the approaches, the bottom-up approach, the citizens' engagement, and just truly listen of what your citizens, but also visitors, want. And that's what we call the bottom-up approach.
And you were saying that in your experience that people who, particularly refugees, the first thing they want is actually Wi-Fi. It's not actually shelter and housing, and we're finding this, for example, I've been doing some work with the University of Wollongong in Jakarta, and that's something also people are wanting, the Wi-Fi. Yeah. So, you know, we haven't really spoken a lot about the widgets, have we? We've spoken about some of the problems and innovative ways to deal with that. So yeah, that's an interesting...
And I think it's just very human that you, as I travel quite often, the first thing I do is want to send a text home that I have arrived. And refugees have usually a bit tougher journey to overcome. And the first thing they want to do is to get in touch with their relatives that they have left behind. So Wi-Fi in their case is more important than a hot water or a toilet even. So that's why you realize that different stakeholders have different perspectives and have different needs. So it doesn't, although we're a global village, a one-size-fits-all solution doesn't apply.
I just asked to refer to that because you know that the place in Tel Aviv that really gets the highest rate for Wi-Fi is the market at the south where all the refugees are. So it's really, it's the point.
Yeah. True, I totally agree.
Frans-Anton, you spoke about startups and entrepreneurs. Michelle, your video was fantastic in terms of pricing out of young thinkers and not so young thinkers about their vision for the future and how things could shape it. So, City of Melbourne, it's always ranks up in the Oscars for the world's, most livable city. So how are we going to make it the world's smartest city? And share us some your thoughts about now from that video what you're focusing on now.
Yeah. Look, I think the takeaway for me and my team from having spent a full day with these 100-odd Melburnians was reinforcing our view that this is all about people.
Yeah.
So the people who come into Melbourne every day to work, to live, to play and to learn are students. We have the largest international student population in Australia. We have workers, we have business owners, we have visitors, we have residents, ratepayers. So it's starting with what are the problems we need to solve for them. And it's really interesting, particularly having the Smarter City Summit here this week. There's a lot of talk about, well, which city is the smartest city in the world, and is there a race to be the smartest city in the world? To be honest, it's less about that for us.
Yeah.
First and foremost, it's about how can we use these technologies to really practically solve the problems of our citizens and ratepayers. And it might be things like make it easier for them to move house. If I'm moving from Kensington to Carlton, as the city, they come to us to change their address, to re-register their car parking, re-register their pets, maybe change childcare places, gyms, that sort of thing. We shouldn't be requiring to fill out multiple forms and having to call our offices or even come in person. We should just make it really simple and easy and intuitive for them. If anything, predict what they'll need and allow that to happen in a couple of clicks. Likewise, with looking at things like congestion, there's a lot of things already underway. We have sensors in our rubbish bins, about 50-odd rubbish bins in the streets. And the reason we do that is so that the bins literally tell the truck company when it needs to be collected, and that means we're not driving around picking up empty bins, and that helps reduce congestion. It has a really practical need. But looking beyond that, I think there's a number of priorities. One of the big priorities for us is to continue to support small business, which includes startups. And there's a lot of work to be done there, particularly working with the universities and connecting the 40-odd% of students at universities today who say they want to start their own business or join a startup, and connecting them with the startups who actually need access to talent. There's work to be done around looking at what can we do at a physical level from the economy. Are there places like markets and precincts where we could be pushing forward some of the trials and prototypes we want to roll out? We have a Wi-Fi project that we'll be rolling out later this year. It's being run by the state government, and we've provided some support for that. But what we really love about Wi-Fi coming to Melbourne, and it is beyond just the grid, it's other parts of the city as well, is that 60% of homeless people in Melbourne have a smartphone. And what we love about that is they will no longer face the choice every day, because they need connectivity, a bit like the example that Franz provided, that we don't want them facing this choice every day around, do I pay for credit or do I get a meal? They'll have free Wi-Fi. It will allow them to access services such as Ask Easy, which is a recent solution that was set up to connect homeless people and people in need with services around accommodation and food and employment. So that, to me, is a game changer for a vulnerable part of our community. That's part of the direction where we're taking things.
It's interesting because I think we've all been in the space for some time. Different journeys come from different angles. And often, the question is put forward, what approach is working? Is it a top-down approach, that is government sort of guiding and leading, or is it a bottom-up approach? And I think what's driving the bottom-up approach is this whole sharing economy, of course, with the likes of the Airbnbs and Uber. So I'm just going to open it up. Is it bottom-up or is it top-down? What's working? Hila, what do you think?
I'm a true believer in bottom-up. So having said that, I don't think it would work if my mayor would not be a real supporter of whatever, just letting us all work and do whatever is going on. So having said that the top of the municipality takes off barriers and puts budget and gives you to do what you need to do, I believe in, again, going to your residents, listening to them, understanding the different communities and thinking what to do with them. And at the same time, what we did in our municipality is we have, I don't know how big is the Australian municipality, but in Tel Aviv it's 8,000 employees, not so much, but still 300 of them on top of their jobs are knowledge ambassadors.
Yes.
That means they bring the knowledge from whatever they do, they connect and they push the knowledge to whoever needs in what he applies to. So we actually are in intimacy throughout the day with our residents in that way that it's bottom up, but it's also the top down, so it's a combination.
Yeah, I can only add to that I think you need the political leadership and you need a vision on the highest level within your community or within your city. They set the framework and that's it. They don't get involved in the nitty-gritty, day-to-day business. It sometimes helps when you have a smart council as well, and that they understand what's going on. And from that top, when you have that vision and that political leadership, it's very, very important that you put somewhere in holistic, because usually all the departments within communities, either whether it's on state, federal or local level, they're all little kingdoms and fighting each other. And you just have to tell them, work together on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's really, really important to get things done, and that will benefit. And also these departments can learn from each other.
Just one thing I think we all forgot, and it's a real pillar, is the private sector, because we're talking all the time about the public, the citizens, the municipality, but hey, without these PPP, public-private partnership, without IBM, without Microsoft, without all these great firms, they're the real entrepreneur. They're working by the market. Excusez-moi. I mean, we are just the civil servants, but they always move before us. They sell the products that are needed by our citizens, and I think this triangle is very, very important. Sorry for jumping in.
Just one addition to that is that the reason why Amsterdam Smart City is so successful was the 2008 financial crisis. There was no money available anymore from government perspectives, and that's where the private partners came in. So we had to partner up, and I know a lot of private partners, when you only mention local government, they don't want to deal with it due to bureaucracy. So that's why we put Amsterdam Smart City on arm's length from the government. And another important thing is that the role of government, stick to your natural role. You're not there to manage buildings, you're not there to drive cars or anything. So stick to your natural role and find out all the champions that can do their things in their best ways. Sorry, Michelle.
No, well, it's a great conversation to have, and you mentioned before the quadruple Ps. I think that, to me, is the right model to bring all this together. Is it bottom up or top down? I think it's everything. Yeah. We had a Melbourne Conversation event here a couple of months ago that talked about the future of democracy, and what was really interesting is obviously, if anyone's got an opinion, all you have to do is, tweet it and let your closest 10,000 friends know. And what we're seeing is more and more the voice of the people is coming out in social media. And to me, there's something really powerful in terms of how do we use that to co-create the future of our cities? How do we use that, I think, with government as a connector, to connect the dots between the voices of the people and the universities and the startups and the big corporates, to make sure we're helping the right things, and we make decisions around grants, we make decisions around licence to operate, to access infrastructure across the city, so we have a role to play. But we are just another part of this. Our job is to help connect and to lead to the right outcomes.
Facilitate is
probably
the key word.
You know, it's interesting with Elon Musk and the work he's been doing with Tesla, and some of you may have come to the Pause Fest early this year, and we had Heath on the panel. And what was really interesting was this concept, I suppose, of catch-up, just picking up on your points, that, you know, in times of crisis, there's often gaps, and that's where the private sector or innovators can see that gap and take on, you know, big markets. But then what happens is there's this period of catch-up, you know. It's interesting. We talk about things such as drones and robotics and all of those. I suppose what you're all doing in your cities is making it aware that these things are coming on the horizon and to be prepared for that. And in order for it to be successful, it's also making sure that it's open for people to participate. So I'd be interested on your perspectives around open data and open standard platforms for technology, so that, you know, there is that opportunity for the private, the public, and the citizens, private people, to participate in that. Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, the City of Melbourne, we have an open data platform. Shortly there'll be about 100 data categories available online on data.melbourne.vic.gov.au, in case you want to have a look. It's actually really easy to navigate, and the email addresses for the trees you can access through that platform. The reason we've set that up is to open up the city, but most importantly to encourage others to innovate and to solve problems for the city. So to give you an example, in about a year's time we will have available between ourselves and other agencies real-time data on all modes of transport. That's not through our platform, to be clear, it's other agencies such as PTV, but that data will be available in about a year's time. We'll have real-time parking data available for the City of Melbourne. At the moment our sensors aren't in real time. The data is still available, but it will be real-time very shortly. We've got pedestrian head count monitors, we've got data available already on the blue bikes, Uber's got data available, and what I'd love to see in about a year's time is that by using our data and other data that's available through that platform, the innovators are jumping on there and starting to think about, hey, if someone's living in Doncaster and they're planning a trip into town, what are the choices they face of that day? What are the choices depending on the weather, depending on the cost and how much time it will take? Do they ride their bike to the bus station to take the bus? Do they take a bus to a bus? Do they jump in an Uber? Do they drive their own car? Do they drive to a train station? The whole idea being that you give people choices, and whilst we're doing that, try and reduce congestion in the city. But the whole idea is that through that data being available, there might be startups that jump on there and start to innovate and provide these solutions. There might be universities. So it is about opening up the city to others to innovate, to solve the problems of our community.
Yeah, in addition to that, it's amsterdamopendata.org, where there's about 700 data sets available, categorized in different categories and different themes. And basically the vision we take there is it's open unless. And this stimulates the creativity of young entrepreneurs and individual people. We have the Apps for Amsterdam competition. So based on that open data, you can develop an app, and it's voted by the public, and once every quarter an app is chosen, you get 5,000 euros and a lot of publicity. And one of the most impressive apps I've seen was from a person in a wheelchair who developed an app that with his phone he could see when he was going through the streets if there was a toilet accessible for disabled people. And don't take it as an offense, but a civil servant would never ever think of that. Another thing which we announced last November is the collaboration between Google and the City of Amsterdam and the Scientific Bureau in the Netherlands. A lot of people think, oh, Google, what are they going to do with my data? But we did a trial with fixed surveillance cameras and data based on what the Google Maps, people who were using Google Maps, and that data was more factual and actual and punctual than the data from the surveillance cameras. And only if you don't believe they're in privacy, etc., it's all taken care of. But shifting from these fixed assets to these data assets, if I may call them so, it will save the City of Amsterdam 50,000 euros per stretched kilometer of tarmac. So it's a huge saving per year.
So just to continue on that, exactly the same thing. So of course we're all talking about opening data and again what our citizens need. So we have a large community of dog keepers and dog fanners. So they made an app of where's the nearest dog garden or dog park. So if your doggy really wants to go out, you take an app and you go outside and you decide where to go, just the nearest place. And there's tons and tons of examples like that. But then what we understood, we need to take it another step, more than just opening the apps. And again, because we're lucky that the Tel Aviv municipality and the city in a way is quite small and quite walkable, we made a committee called Beta Site. That means if anyone has an urban new startup, they can approach the committee and ask to try it on the municipality. So we have, like in the last 2 years, more than a dozen of new startups, new commercialized new products that can be used for urban all over the world, but we try them first in Tel Aviv, and then again we fail sometimes, but that's part of it. But we get all the knowledge from all the citizen officials that can give and benefit and learn from each other. So I think this is the next step. We should allow our citizens to use our municipality.
Frans-Anton, tell us about the reverse engineering. So we hear about startups for success. You've got an initiative where you're trying to reinvent those that failed. Do you want to? Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, we just started basically the innovation graveyard. So there's a lot of innovations out there that will not go to market. And individually they may not be successful, but when you combine several of these innovations found on this innovation graveyard and categorize them, they can be successful. And that's what you learn from your failures as well. So at least that you have an overview, a database of all the innovations that have not succeeded. We put that in the innovation graveyard, and that's it comes up with new ideas and combined things, especially when an innovation failed 3 to 4 years ago, combined with an innovation that just failed. Sometimes they can be very supplementary and come up with a new type of app or innovation or solution.
Interestingly enough, when we think about innovations, we think about the fun things. Just to get some perspective, is there a particular challenge that each of your cities is facing at the moment? If you can think of one and maybe share some light on one of the creative ideas that you're using to address that challenge. And it can be as broad, it can be, any challenge. It doesn't necessarily have to be, specific to technology, but in way creative ideas are bringing that to the fore. Michelle, did you want to?
Yes, so I can half answer that question.
Yeah.
The reason being that our CEO mentioned that today we've launched a Smarter Cities Challenge with IBM and with Twitter. So in 3 weeks' time, I'll have the answer to that question. Yep. But the problem that's been presented to them is how do we prepare Melbourne for disruptive events that might include emergencies? And the reason that the Twitter component that's really, really important is that obviously if a truck hits a bridge in the city, if there's an incident around a fire and so on, the first thing someone's going to do in all likelihood is tweet it. So we really love the real-time nature of that notification, and that might lead to all sorts of solutions for us. I think data's going to be a big part of it. I suspect there might be some kind of visual dashboard component. We might bring together some agencies across the city, and we're very fortunate in that 30 different agencies, including non-profits and different layers of government, participate in this challenge. So let's come back in 3 weeks and I'll answer the question for you, Catherine.
Just on that, I'll send you the link to PETA Jakarta, which you're probably familiar with. So they've been parsing all the Twitter data and doing very well with that. Who's next? Yeah,
I'll take it up from here. We're talking about challenges, and again, let's go back to our cities. One of the most, I think, biggest challenge we're all experiencing is taking down the cost of living, because at the end of the day, global cities is such an issue. The rent, the price of food, the price of cost, everything just goes high. And one of our challenges as a municipality officers, how are we taking these costs down? And of course, the answer starts from sharing things. So we can help by sharing spaces. The municipality has so many spaces, schools, community centers, public places, and if we will be able to share those places with our citizens, to have parties over there, not have to pay money for rent, to use these places to learn things, to do things, we have, it's been like Airbnb in a way is shared private places, but we can do the same thing with our public spaces. This is one thing. Another thing is sharing utilities. Like I have I don't know, not a car, but even a small thing like a jigsaw, a ladder or whatever, and we can, I know in Amsterdam there's one thing, we learned it from there. So the municipality helps people just connect between them and share things like that. So share parking lots, parking spaces. Okay, you can share so many things, and the digital or the technology is just the tool, and once you share, the cost of living gets really in 10% or 20%, and you earn so much. I can go into more examples, but this is just a way of thinking, a concept that can really helps refer to that challenge.
Yeah, and I think open data and the openness is playing a big role in there. One of the biggest contributors to CO2 emission on a consumer level in the city of Amsterdam, first of all, is mummies and daddies driving their kids to the child daycare or to school. But second of all is people that are driving around finding a parking space. So we're developing now a system that, based on the open data, historical data, real-time data, but also predictive data, that in that stretch of, say, 50 meters, it's highly likely that there will be 1 or 2 parking spaces available, and that will be sent. You can see that on your mobile device, for example. The other thing is that we believe in Amsterdam that the livability of a city consists of both living and working. So there's a high density of people that are living in the city center of Amsterdam, mostly own a car, but that car is in front of their door for 7 days a week, and they only use it once. So we're trying to develop now a kind of valet parking system that they don't need to park their car in front of their door, but in the in certain dedicated parking garages, and that you will have some kind of mechanism that if you suddenly need your car, then you will be able to get it, but most likely you're going to use your car on a Sunday, so it will be then in front of your door.
Fantastic. So I'd like to welcome Councillor Jackie Watts, who looks after the knowledge portfolio for your wonderful city, to open the questions this evening. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here listening to these terrific ideas, and look, I'm making a bit of a list. I'm conscious that we in the City of Melbourne do a lot, but there's also a lot we can take from our international visitors here. But what I'm struck by is that this audience actually is self-selecting. Everybody here is interested in this very exciting sphere of the smart city. But as an elected representative, I represent a lot of people who aren't with you necessarily. How are you going to bring people along with us on this journey? The City of Melbourne has developed Knowledge Week specifically for the purpose of engaging the wider community with this exciting stuff that you're presenting with us tonight. But I'm wondering if other cities in the world are tackling this problem in different ways.
That's an excellent question.
I'd love to refer to that because you won't believe it. You know, we're talking about technology and tools and everything on the web, but when we really wanted to talk to our citizens, you know what we did? We actually invited them to the city square. We made like a big event with tables and chairs and, you know, the old way of just talking to each other. Mm-hmm. And we sat there for 3 hours in the most professional way, of course, and we kept the data, etc. But from those 3 hours, we got so much ideas, because sometimes people are very, very digitalized, but for their own need. And once you want to talk with them with a biography, it's not always they want to go on the website for that reason. So sometimes when you do, this is what we did in Tel Aviv. When we wanted to talk to our residents, we actually approached them. We made an appointment, we made an event, and that's when we talked to them.
Yeah, in addition to that, when we wanted to define the structure vision for 2040 for the city of Amsterdam, we basically interviewed 8,000 people, all in small different groups, and it doesn't cost a lot of money because you go to a community center, you provide them with coffee and tea. First half hour you get all the rubbish over you, what you're not doing right, but then people come up with ideas. And we invited basically big companies, small companies. We have 180 different nationalities living within the city of Amsterdam, all asking what their needs are. And I think one of the best sessions we had, Michelle was already mentioning it as well, is the session with the homeless. And these homeless people, they don't have a physical address, but most of them have a mobile phone these days. And they were asking, can't you provide the tram stops in Amsterdam solar powered with USB connection so that we can connect our mobile phones and charge that at night? Then the Amsterdam Tourist and Conference Board said, why not provide free Wi-Fi for the tourists so the tourists can charge their phone for a short time, they can have Wi-Fi, and then they started off that with the Wi-Fi and the connection you can develop much more applications that makes the living and visiting of Amsterdam a little bit more pleasant. And if there's questions, just open up a Twitter account, let people ask the question publicly and answer publicly as a city council or department or any other entity.
I have a perspective on that. The City of Boston have been in this space for some time, and their, I suppose, learnings have been to start early and don't surprise people. So if you're wanting to bring people along the journey, which you're very active in the City of Melbourne, it's about communication. Actually, there is no such thing as over-communication in this age. So it doesn't hurt to get your stories out about what you're doing, and you may actually convert people along the way that previously were fearful, but when they actually see the case studies, they start to come on board. So storytelling and putting that out early, I think, is a very effective way. But great question, thank you. So we'd like to ask a question here. If you can please state your name and keep the comment or question brief, we're more than happy to answer it for you.
Thank you very much for a very enlightening panel. My name is Alex. My question is basically following on from the previous one, and that is that the cities we've been talking about, it's very, you can see why they're innovative and how they're being innovative. My question is, if you're able to share the innovative knowledge in your cities to other cities that are less enlightened than yourselves, and particularly in the third world.
Oh, I love that question, because we have an organization called cityprotocol.org, which is a not-for-profit organization. Over 30 cities are sharing their best and next practices and lessons learned. There's about 15 big corporates and small corporates, and most importantly, there's all kind of knowledge institutions that learn from each other. So why invent the wheel over and over and over? And that's one of the things that's how we share our knowledge and focus on different tasks and also in different implementations.
So that's cityprotocol.org for those who didn't capture that.
Exactly. This is actually what we're doing here. We're listening to you guys. We're learning from you. We're sharing our knowledge. I go once a month somewhere around the world. I experience, I learn, and we share. I think we wouldn't make that big jump, that big leap in the last 5, 6, 7 years if we wouldn't share our knowledge. And we just talked about it before in the ballroom, in the green room, sorry, that we feel we're part of the, Renato, you know, that we're part of this small group, that we're sharing ideas. So this is part of it.
If we look at the world's rankings for the world's smartest cities, cities like Singapore or countries like South Korea and Indonesia, they're up there. So it's certainly something, because of the availability, the cost of technology going down, because it's been consumer-driven, it's certainly very active with our Asian peers.
And in addition to that, we as Amsterdam, we're not a smart city, we're just a smarter city because we do not believe there are dumb cities in this world. So although it seems a bit a semantic discussion, but every city, every community has something there that is already smart. And if you try to label that as smart, then you have your first success as low-hanging fruit. So try to do that ASAP.
Thanks, Alex, for your question. The next one. Thank you.
I really like that last highlight from frans-anton. My name is Erwin Boermans. I originate from Rotterdam. And we always have that healthy rivalry, very similar to Sydney and Melbourne.
We have a better soccer team, that's correct.
The great thing is that I've been involved 15 years ago with the integration card of the student association Stadswonen that later was implemented also in Amsterdam. And I see that taken further with the car share model as well. So I'm very happy that I'm here contributing to the city of Melbourne also since 6 years, because I'm married with an Aussie girl. But my highlight is we can do so much better here in Melbourne with rubbish and with water. Yes. Holland is built under sea level. Amsterdam is, I think, 2 meters under sea level. And why do we have in Australia every flood? We've got television pictures going around the world with houses running down rivers, where every canal in Amsterdam has floating houses. They just go up and down. Can you please help the city of Melbourne that we get that implemented? And the other highlight is Amsterdam is so smart with processing rubbish into energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Teach them that idea as well.
Yeah,
please.
But that's the things that because we do not have a lot of land spare to put our waste, so we have to treat our waste in a more clever way. So basically what we do is collect our waste by electrical vehicles, bring that to the Amsterdam waste power plant that generates so much energy that's enough for both the public lighting and public transport, and the surplus is giving to all kind of citizens that really need that energy against low cost. So basically our perspective is garbage is gold. There's excuse my friend, but shitloads of money to earn with that garbage. And don't take this as an offense, Michelle, but we put sensors in our waste bins, underground waste bins, and we thought that would be clever because then all the trucks have to come out only when the waste bins are full. Actually planning that and driving those routes cause more CO2 emission than just doing the regular route. So that's a learning I want to bring to here as well. And your question about water management. Okay, one of the things, and sorry for this promotional talk, but the Consulate General in Sydney, he has 2 focuses. One is cycling, which is in the Dutch origin, and the other thing is water management. And what in the past it was that our knowledge and our experience came to other countries, and we thought, okay, we're going to teach you how to do it. But now we can learn a lot from your country when it comes to drought and when there's a lack of water. It doesn't happen that often in the Netherlands. So, and what you see now by sharing this information, sharing the experience, sharing the knowledge, it accelerates the whole process also. And we would like to help them here in Brisbane and anywhere else where there's a lot of flooding. Thanks.
What's really pleasing, lots of football fans here, I would hope, but one of the reason that the MCG is so green, do people know why? It's because if you go there on Wednesday nights around about 7 p.m, the system from the Netherlands, Tulips, is actually keeping the grass green. And it's also using the water reticulation. So that's actually an innovation of which the CEO of the MCG spent a lot of time in the Netherlands and brought that technology here. So thank you. There's great innovations. Anybody else for a question?
Evening, my name's Al from Base Co-Living here in Melbourne. Thank you for this evening. So we talk about affordability, community, the collaborative economy. I'd also like to bring up a lot of what I speak about the emerging millennial generation and the motivational and behavioural drivers that drive this generation, which are totally different to any generation before. And just ask you on your perspective on the role that co-living or communal living plays in the modern urban world and the role that it will play in the emerging future. But more so, what is scary from a council's perspective or a government's perspective? What's scary about co-living and that change? Because we've come up against a lot of lack of awareness or just very very scared to take the step towards co-living because it means letting go of a lot of control power and a lot of power centres. But maybe that's what's needed in order to partner with millennial generation. I just wanted to ask what your perspective is on, firstly, the role of co-living as a way to solve a number of these problems within one central idea, and also what the sticky point is and why might it be scary for politicians, for government, for council.
So can I just ask, perhaps for the benefit of the audience, can you define co-living for us?
Yeah. So our philosophy or our guiding principle is ancient wisdom, modern context. We've lived in community for centuries. And then the Industrial Revolution drew us apart. And it's caused a lot of troubles where we're at right now. And we see socially this generation wants to be connected more than ever on the ground. Environmentally, we know we need the sharing economy. And economically, the cost of living, we've spoken about that enough. So co-living is really a way of living together, playing together, working together in a space that has an internal economy so that you can lower the cost of living by having your costs subsidised by other revenue streams within the space.
So I think the panel have shared some examples, particularly with regards to looking at the way in which communities are trying to fill their needs, and there's certainly opportunities in the sharing economy to do that. Yep. Any quick thoughts, because we need to move on to the other questions?
I might just mention a point around resilience. We have a big focus on resilience across Greater Melbourne at the moment. For those who aren't aware, the Rockefeller Foundation has funded a program called 100 Resilient Cities, and Melbourne is part of that program. And resilience is actually about your ability as a city to withstand major shocks. It might be a major heat event, for example, which, as we all know in the city of Melbourne, for us it's less about the bushfires, it's more about heat stroke and making sure we're looking after vulnerable communities, for example. But one of the root cause drivers of a resilient city, is, in terms of what's been seen elsewhere around the world, is where we have those connections between people in a community. It might be that people within a particular suburb have connections because their kids all go to the same school, or they might see each other at the same library, or they might all live in a regional area and a lot of them take the train together to work, for example. So I think there's a major plus side of what you're talking about, which is beyond just the economics of efficiency and reducing cost of living. I think there's a real sense there that it is about the benefit to the community in terms of its ability to withstand these major shocks as well.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for this exciting presentation. My name's Michael Steindl, and I'm passionate about an issue that I'm sure the panel has all thought lots about, but doesn't seem really to be mentioned, which is the climate emergency. Mm-hmm. Michelle touched on it by saying budgeting for 2 to 4 degrees perhaps, and the resilience also comes into it. I wonder if the panel could share their thoughts on how the things they're doing are going to be applied to, if things go the way they're looking, it won't matter if you can share parking because the garage might be underwater. It won't matter if you have a walkable city because the vulnerable won't be able to go out, it'll be too hot, and so on. It won't matter if you can address the trees when they've died because of drought. Those sort of challenges for cities, I think, are huge. How are you applying your smart cities to that place?
I think on the contrary, you should probably think about Tel Aviv dealing with emergencies and things like that. Again, knowledge and tools are needed for that. So like 2 years ago when we had our missiles over Tel Aviv, when we had the apps for shelters, it really helped. So in 30 minutes I know where to run with my kid. And it really gave a safe feeling. We have cameras all over town that is for safety during regular days, but also for emergency. I think everything, the more you're prepared, your resilience is higher, the self-efficiency is higher. the same tools are used for everything, so also for emergency, and this is one of the challenges that all the cities in the world are approaching. And I don't know, have you been to Tel Aviv?
No.
No. Well, first of all, you're invited.
Thank you.
But whoever hasn't been will be told by the ones that are there. It's one of the most, just opposite of what you'd think, but it's one of the most safest city in the world. You walk there at 2 a.m. as a woman, as a man, you feel so safe. Although in the news you see different things, but how many people here have been to Tel Aviv? Okay, that's great. That's lots of hands. So I'm sure these people that have been, thank you so much for sharing this knowledge, did feel safe. And by the way, this is part of the thing, okay? So emergency is the way you refer to it, the way you are getting ready to it, and this is part of the resilience. So these are the tools we need for our emergencies.
Let me give just two quick examples, which is we try to get the paradigm shift from ownership to availability, and that availability of cars, for example, will only be electrical vehicles. And they are powered by the waste that is generated by the Amsterdam citizens. The other thing what we do is virtual local grids, so locally generated and locally stored energy that's available for a certain community. I know it won't prevent us for heating up the earth, but it's a start and as a pilot, and I think if you can implement this citywide or probably nationwide, it will have some kind of impact.
You may want to look at We Share Solar, which is an Amsterdam initiative, We Share Solar. Last question.
Thank you. I feel very privileged to be lucky last.
Sorry.
My name is Sally. No, that's
Thanks,
fine. My name
Sally.
is Sally, and I work in museums and galleries primarily. And I'm really interested in this whole concept of tempering technology with human interactivity. Because I find that if I get on a train at the moment, I can barely make eye contact with anybody because they've already got their fingers on their device, their eyes down on their device. And I love all these apps, and I really love, the integration for definitely homeless people getting access to information and so on. But in an age where we've produced something like 90% of all world data in the past 2 years, I feel like we are already approaching overload and that we are missing out on connecting with each other. And so my concern in conversations like this is somehow balancing this great potential of technology without losing our connection with our people, with each other.
Just switch it off.
Yeah. I'm not sure we have an answer
But
to that.
is there a way that with that's what I do love about Melbourne, is that it is a people-based city, and that's what a lot of my friends say, is that you can have an idea in Melbourne and you can make it happen because of the people that are available to you.
Yes.
And so what I'm asking you is, how do we connect our citizens to each other?
Share not only digital. We have libraries on the seashore. This you can use in Melbourne. We just put books and people come and share them and use them. We share toys. We put toys on the... So many things you can just, talk to each other and share things, and they make the connection.
Just like the beautiful deck chairs out there on Federation Square. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. I would now love to welcome Michael Dixon from IBM to provide some closing remarks. Michael leads IBM in Watson and IoT across Asia Pacific and is responsible for managing the development of this powerhouse of cognitive computing in the region. He is responsible for strategic initiatives in solutions for Watson and the Internet of Things and related business development, sales and delivery across all industries. Prior to this role, Michael was the General Manager for Global Lead for IBM's Global Smarter Cities business. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Catherine, and good evening, everybody. I won't take long because I know that I'm the difference between being here and going home, so I'll only take a few minutes. I'm a rapporteur, and I'm not quite sure what that is. But I'm from Melbourne and delighted to be back here after 4 years travelling around the world in the role I previously had. I think a rapporteur is something to do with summary, which means I don't have to contribute anything new or original, just kind of try and tie together some of the things I've heard, which I can do because the themes I've heard are similar to those I've heard in many other cities around the world. I want to just finish on three things and talk to you briefly and get you thinking about these three things. The first is that we are awash with data for the first time in history. And we might think about the computing industry of the last generation, which for many of you in the industry know has been dominated by what's known in the industry as ERP, or Enterprise Resource Planning Systems, which in the vernacular are very, very, very big spreadsheets, which drive the industry in all sorts of ways and all companies in what is known as structured data. And what we're seeing now with the rise of the Internet of Things, as we've heard tonight, is that everything we can think of is generating data. And things that we thought were inanimate objects, everything from buildings to rivers to garbage bins, are now communicating. And so they're providing this vast amount of data. And so IBM's opinion is that we are now entering what's known as the cognitive systems era, where we'll increasingly see machines talking to machines to provide things that humans could never do. They can aggregate data and distribute it with all sorts of analytics, decision making, and decision support that humans can't do. Of course, humans have initiative and problem solving and innovation and all the sorts of things that machines can't do. So it's a great match to make sense of this data. But I want you to think about this vast amount of data which is now coming into existence, and it will only get greater. And so we need to think about, as someone said earlier, not what that means in terms of technology, but how we apply it, what we do with it. So the first thing to think about is anything you can think about is generating data, and we need to think about how we apply that. The second thing I want you to think about is being ambitious. And we've heard a lot about projects tonight, and I've visited many cities around the world, and they all tackle different things. In my view, they tackle things which typically need to be done, or people are very interested in having done. They're the kind of two things that drive programs. But the important thing is to do something big and meaningful. And I think the way you do that is, we've talked about it tonight, bringing together public and private sector, government, individuals, communities and groups, and social networks and other things are giving us a chance to do that like never before. But being ambitious, we think about Copenhagen, who are saying they'll be carbon neutral by 2025. We think about Singapore, which will, if you know Singapore, they will reduce the temperature in Singapore in coming years. So you think about some of these big things. We think about urban mobility, perhaps less about public transport, less about road transport, and more about how do people move around. Many of you are aware that 100 years or so ago, people like us, interested self-selectors, as was pointed out earlier tonight, sat around scratching their heads, were very concerned because they couldn't fathom how transport would continue with the rising amount of horse manure in the streets. I can go on, but there were some terrific models built that said that by 1914, on projected volumes, the UK would be under 9 feet of horse manure in London. And then a thing called the car came along. And you all sit there laughing, going, well, what fools, they had no idea the car was coming. Yet today, we think it's normal to sit in these wretched traffic jams, and I'm sure in 100 years, people see photos of these spaghetti junctions jammed with cars saying, what the hell was that? So think about what's next. Be ambitious. What does urban mobility mean? How do we manage in a very different way? So in these kinds of project areas, it's important to think about little things, but we need to think about really the way these four areas really make use of this data. Firstly, to optimise assets that we have. So if you accept my view that these assets are dumb, many of them expensive and very big, like buildings, we can optimise, we can use what we've got much better, and data helps us do that. The second thing we can do is use data to help us plan new capacity, and the metro is a great example of how we're changing very important, very expensive structures using very clear views about what we need to do, and they're very expensive decisions to make. The third thing is to welcome disruptive technologies, and I won't go on, but you're all aware of the way in which we can bring these disruptive technologies to bear. And finally, we're personalising things like never before. It's lovely to be back in Melbourne, as I say, but I've said before, I've got an American mobile phone in my pocket, and I'm here in Nairobi, and I can ring my family in Melbourne, and I know that, in a month's time, a bill will wind its way to my desk saying that I spoke to someone for 6 minutes and 14 seconds and it cost me $12.90 or something. Very personalised. It's a great example of how do we personalise all these products and services that we'll consume in the future. So optimising what we've got, adding capacity, disruption, and personal use. I can see Catherine standing up, so I think the hook's coming. My final point is you are self-selecting. This is about leadership. Technology doesn't do anything. Smart cities don't do anything. People do things, and we've had that as a recurring theme tonight. This is about leadership. I can take you to the cities, I think at least, a couple of dozen cities that I think are leaders in the world in these things, and introduce you to the man or woman that started these projects rolling. And I would encourage each of you, everybody in the room is here this evening, on a lovely autumn Melbourne night because you're interested in this topic. And that means you're the kind of person that needs to bring together some ideas, take them to people who are like-minded, and get the show on the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Fantastic. Bit of a rev up. That's what we want at the end of the night. So thanks, Michael. Hilla, Frans-Anton and Michelle, thank you. You've been very, very kind to share your thoughts with us tonight, and I'm sure there was probably a lot more questions that these fabulous people wanted to ask you. So let's give a big round of applause to our great speakers. Woohoo!